Good morning. My name is Hannah Beeler, and I am the social media manager here at COSI. Thank you for joining me today for the 2021 COSI Science Festival. The festival has moved from a 4-day physical festival to an all-digital format May 5th through 8th. On May 8th, we hope you will connect virtually with at-home science activities and share your experience with photos or videos on social media using hashtag COSISciFest. And of course, we want to give a big shout out to all the sponsors and partners of the COSI Science Festival, especially our visionary sponsor, Patel. We certainly couldn't do this without them. Want to show your support for COSI? We are nominated once again for USA Today's 10 Best Science Museum. You can vote for COSI by visiting cosi.org/10best, and don't forget, COSI opens to the public on June 3rd. Now it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's event.
Well, hi, everyone. My name is Melody Reed. I'm the Executive Director at GlassAxis. We are here in Franklinton, very near COSI and just west of downtown Columbus. So thank you for joining us today. I am just going to do a brief introduction, and then I'm going to give you a quick tour as best we can in this, our first virtual demo through the COSI Science Festival. So and then we'll do some of the we'll show you some of the really interesting things you can do with glass through science and art. And if you have any questions, you can pop those in the chat or send them through any other instructions you might have, and those will get those to us, and we will do our best to answer questions as we go. So I'm going to really quickly, you're going to hear me but not see me anymore. I'm going to turn my camera around, and I am going to show you around our hot shop. All right. So now I've got us turned around here. We are in the hot shop here at GlassAxis. We call it the hot shop, not because of the temperature of how hot it is, but because of the temperature of the glass we use. Right now, you're looking at 2 giant furnaces. These are both filled with that hot molten glass. These are held at about 2,050 degrees. We keep those on all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I often joke that I am perfectly happy to trade gas bills with anyone who would like to. For people watching at home, to give yourself an idea, when your parents are yelling at you, at the others to turn down the thermostat because, you know, they're not paying to heat the whole neighborhood, at the heat of winter in most houses, most regular houses, you're looking at a gas bill between, usually between $100 and $300, given on where you keep it. The gas bill here at GlassAxis usually comes in at between $4,000 and $6,000 a month. That's how much we pay in our natural gas bill. I'm going to pan across, and we're going to show you some of the other things we'll be using today. The first one you see is a reheating chamber. We can turn this piece of equipment on and off. This is where our glass blowers are going to do most of the shaping of the glass as they work on it. When we turn this on, this gets up to 2,300 degrees. So you'll see us using that a lot. And we come over here, and this is our pipe warmer. This is where we keep the pipes until we are ready to use them. Now I'm going to spin around. I'm going to show you our 2 incredible artists you're going to be working with today. On the left is Miss Sarah Todd. On the right is Miss Alex Fresh. Sarah is a graduate of Virginia Commonwealth University. She's got a Bachelor of Fine Arts with a concentration in glass. Miss Alex is a graduate of the Ohio State University that has a glass program. She also has her BFA with a concentration in glass, meaning these ladies went to college to study how to be glass blowers. This is what they wanted to do, and we are so excited to have them working with us today. So we are going to get started, show you a couple of the scientific properties of glass. Sarah is going to start with one of our, it's called a punty rod, and she's going to take it over to our furnace. I'm going to follow her around as best I can here. And she is dipping that rod right into the hot liquid glass, and you can now see it at the end. So it's glowing this kind of bright yellow. And what she's doing is she's keeping her hands moving all the time. She's keeping that pipe rolling, because if she stops for even a second, it's going to drip right off the end of that. So she keeps it rolling to keep the glass going. Now, Alex is taking it, and Sarah is grabbing it with tweezers, the end of the glass. And I'm going to show you just how far she's going to stretch this. So she's taking it, And it's now a very fine string. You can kind of see it shiny all the way across the floor. So now Sarah is approximately 40 or 50 feet away from Alex and has stretched this all the way across the floor. You can see the shiny thread kind of on our floor, going all the way across the floor, all the way back down to Alex. And what we want to show you is the glass, when it's this thin, is going to cool down really, really quickly. But it's also going to stay kind of oddly flexible, more so than you think glass would be. Sarah can kind of almost make coils out of it, but she's going to break it into some smaller threads and get several of them. And then we're going to show you one of the really neat things. We always like to point out to people how glass is one of the most versatile things, and we use it daily in our lives, more so than anyone even realizes sometimes. We all know it's, say, you know, on your car windshield, and the screen on your phone and your computers are made from it, and your TV screens and everything. But the basic science of fiber optic cable, how we're all getting internet to do this today and into our homes, where we're in schools where we're watching this, is by using glass. So Sarah has gathered up all of these long pieces, and she's breaking them down into smaller pieces now. And you'll be able to see just how they're making fiber optic cable. So we're just going to use a phone screen here by using that. And you can see how the light is traveling through the glass, through those tips. Next, Sarah is going to grab one of the blowpipes, meaning she can actually blow air right through it. A lot of people say, you know, when they say glass blowing, do they mean really blowing? Yes, we really mean blowing. So she's going to go ahead and dip that into our furnace again. So when she opens this door, we try to make it so, you know, people kind of wonder exactly how hot is that. The best way is if you've ever stood near your oven at home, and usually it's around 350 degrees, well, multiply that by 5, and that's about how hot it is in front of that. So Sarah's rolling it on the table. She's got another gather of glass, and now she's going to blow air into it. And I'm going to go in as close as I can here, and you're actually going to see the end of this glass start to expand. It's got a bubble in it. And you're actually going to see, there you go, how it starts to expand. And she's going to keep blowing air into it now. She's just blowing right into the pipe. And you're going to start to see this bubble get larger and larger. So it's kind of the same idea as when you're blowing a bubble in your bubble gum. So this glass can still go, and it can keep expanding. But they can also break into these very, very tiny pieces now. So this is it. And if you're just doing something like this, you can break it into even more pieces. Sarah is going to do one more. She's going to get another gather of this glass. And we're going to show you one of my personal favorite science things we do called a Prince Rupert's drop. There's lots of videos like this online if you want to learn more about these. So she's getting more of that glass. And she's coming over here to our water bucket. And she's now actually going to stop rolling and let it drip right into the bucket. You can kind of hear it rattling in there. And obviously, and now it's just glowing in there in the bottom. So the outside is still very hot, but the inside is still very hot, but the outside has cooled down a lot. And this causes a really interesting reaction in the glass, in that Sarah has one that's already done now. So you can see this is the drop, just like you saw glowing. And then it's got this long spindly tail that's a little bit bendy. And so she's setting it here on our steel table. And she's going to grab a small hammer, and she's going to bang the end of this harder than you would think. Harder than you would think she'd be able to. And most people would think, hey, that's going to break. It's not actually. She could keep banging on that, banging and banging and banging, and eventually she could actually dent this steel table that it's sitting on. It's that hard. It's that reaction of the inside staying hot and the outside getting cold really fast. But we're now going to move it with some safety equipment into this glass box. So this is kind of like a aquarium sort of thing that you might keep your pets in at home. She's going to take that drop now. She's going to hold it very delicately on the tail. So you can see it's down here in the box, and she's got the tail up above her. All right, so I was just told that we lost some of the sound, so I'm hoping maybe you can hear us now. Perfect. Okay, great. All right, let me turn the camera back around because I am not interesting to look at. Okay. So I think our sound is back on now. You really didn't miss what I was letting everyone know is we've started making our glass object now. Sarah got more of that glass out of the furnace, and now she's getting the color added to it. She is using glass color that we call frit, F-R-I-T, and it looks like this. It's kind of looks like aquarium gravel. We buy this already colored, Although in some studios, they actually make it there in the studio, but we buy it this way, which allows us to add that color into the glass. Right now, she's got gray on there. As she's going to bring it over, though, you're not going to be able to see that gray color. It kind of all looks the same right now because it's so hot. And what she's doing is shaping the glass on this steel table. She's put some gray and some white on the glass now, so you can just start to see the color coming back. And what she's doing is when she puts that color on, she's going over to our reheating chamber. And she is watching that color melt in the glass, kind of the way chocolate chips melt into cookies when you're baking them. So again, this reheating chamber she's standing in front of is held at 2,300 degrees. And we move back and forth around. Now she's sitting at her bench and she's got a pair of tweezers and she's making some swirls in the glass. She's getting that color to swirl exactly how she wants it, kind of in a stripy pattern. And this is the feathering. And this is the inside. If you've ever seen when people do icing, like icing brownies, and they want it to, it's called feathering, where you're drawing it through to kind of give some shape or some different patterns in that. So like when you're doing icing on brownies, that's what she's doing. Right now, what she's doing is going to be the inside of the bowl that she's making, right? Outside, inside. She's working on, see, I have to ask questions because I talk a lot, but you know. So we're making it from the inside to the outside. So you'll see as we add other colors how we're going to get some layers and how you'll get an idea of how this is going to look. So Sarah's moving back over to her bench, and now she's using a tool called a block. These are made from a fruit wood, which has got a higher sugar content, and it creates a nice kind of layer of steam underneath it to get a really nice round shape. So she's trying to get really round. Huh? Leidenfrost is the name of the effect.
It's the same thing when you drink water on a hot pan and it dances across the surface. Leidenfrost, Leiden, named after the scientist Leiden who figured it out.
So Sarah is reheating that glass again. Remember, you're always welcome to ask questions as we go. I should be able to see those. If you have any specific questions for our glass blowers, I promise to ask them, and they give much better answers than I do. So Sarah is now, she started blowing air into this again, so that you'll start to see that bubble, and you'll start to see the end of this get larger now. So now Sarah is ready to add some more glass. She got the glass underneath just the right temperature, and she's going to add more clear glass on top of this so she can do another layer. So now she's got a layer of clear glass over that gray and white she had, and now she's using some different color. Now she's working on what's going to be the outside of the bowl. She's rolling it in a color that looks from our side like it's clear, But when this, at the end of this, when it goes through the annealing process, it's going to be a cherry red color. But we're not going to see that until it's all the way done and through the annealing process, which I'll explain a little later. So she's putting that color on back in our reheating chamber. And she's watching for that color to melt in the glass, just like before when we were talking about watching, almost like when you watch those chocolate chips melt into cookies. That's what she's waiting for. And when she brings it back over, she's going to go into that cherry red color again. Even though it doesn't look red from our side, that's the color it's going to be when it's all done. So I did see one question come in through the chat, and it's a question we get a lot. And it's like, how can someone become a glass blower? Well, there's a lot of answers to that. A lot of people just start by doing something like coming to a class at a place like Glass Access. We offer classes to the public. So people can come in, and with the help of our instructors, which Miss Sarah and Miss Alex are both instructors here as well, they can make any number of items. Right now we're making glass icicles, we're making glass pumpkins, birds, flowers, hot dogs. We make glass hot dogs for fun. And then we also offer classes in all the other areas of our shop. We'll be doing a demo in the torch area on Friday. If you want to see one of the different ways we work with glass, we teach classes there too, but also in stained glass, fused glass, mosaic, and neon. So a lot of people will start with a class somewhere and then they say, I'd like to learn more about this. I really liked it. We offer classes here as well for people who want to learn more. And they actually start learning how to pull the glass out of the furnace themselves and do more of the shaping and more of the work for themselves. So we offer those as well. Some people then just stop there and they like that they learned it. That actually turns some people into a hobbyist where they start to make things on their own, sometimes for families, friends. Sometimes they take it to art shows, things like that, and sell them. The other way is that there are several college programs in the country in which you can go and study to be a professional glassblower like Miss Sarah and Miss Alex. There are two here in Columbus. You can go to the Ohio State University, and you can also go to Columbus College of Art and Design. They both have glass programs in which they're learning all about all of the aspects of glass blowing. Now Miss Sarah is dipping in a different color. This one is called Gold Aventurine, so it's actually going to turn a very shiny gold. But right now, it kind of has this like clay, copper color. Kind of like the flower pots a lot of us use at home, kind of that color. But it's going to turn a really beautiful gold color. So I'm seeing some of the other questions. Towards the end, I am going to actually have Sarah explain a little more about why the Prince Rupert drop, why it shatters in some parts and not in others when you hit it with a hammer, because she's better at explaining that than I am. So yeah, another question is saying, is this offered as classes? What we're making today is not, but we do have a lot of classes. Those are all available on our website, which is found at www.glassaccess.org. All those classes, we've got classes up through May and June. We also have listed on our website, if we have any younger viewers on today, we have 2 summer camps that we offer this summer. So those are 9 to noon for a week, and you get to make activities in each area of our shop, including the hot shop. Throughout the summer, we're also going to do a series of days called Schools Out Open House. And these are days when we can have kids as young as 8 years old over in the hot shop making solid glass paperweights. A lot of people are asking us, if we have to operate any differently right now because of COVID-19. We do. We've been very, very lucky that we've been able to be reopened since June. Our classes are all very small. 4 people. You'll probably notice both me, Miss Sarah, and Miss Alex, we are all without masks, which in the hot shop is just something we have to do. She can't possibly blow air into something if she's wearing a mask, but I do always like to share with people that all 3 of us are fully vaccinated. We've had both of our doses of each of ours. So when we're together, we are very, very safe here in the hot shop. Although any of our glass artists, when they're working in the hot shop, because of the heat and all the things they have to do, have always been allowed, even through COVID, to not use their masks in the hot shop, just because it's a necessity of what we do. We keep them on when we're outside of this area of the shop. But when we're over here working, it's just not. A lot of people wonder how hot it is. So on any given day, it is generally about 15 to 20 degrees hotter here in the hot shop than it is anywhere else. So right now, outside it is about 60 degrees, give or take. And in the hot shop right now, it's sitting at about 76 degrees. So right now, Alex and Sarah are working together. Alex is blowing air through that blowpipe, and it's actually going to make the bubble that was in here a little larger. So we can start to get ready for the next step in this process. Alex and Sarah, you probably can't hear it through the microphone, but Alex and Sarah are communicating a lot to each other when they're doing this. Alex was ready to blow air in as soon as she needed it, and Sarah was telling her when to start and stop and how hard to blow and when to let up a little. So there's always communication between people working together in the hot shop. You don't always need partners when you're working, depending on what you're making, but for something like this, it really helps to have an extra pair of hands and an extra mouth and pair of lungs when you're working. Someone else asked, we should have a little time at the end to ask Sarah and Alex some specific more questions, because someone wants to know, both of you, what your favorite thing is to make. So think about your answer there. And we will answer that towards the end of our demo. So some parts of the glass blowing process can seem almost a little slow. There's a lot of back and forth, but it's because they're getting the glass the exact temperature they want, and they're making sure it's going to look exactly as they want. Sometimes that takes some time. The glass is still, when they're working with it over here at the bench, over here, it can get down as low as about 1600 degrees when they're working with it. But if they need it to do something else, they may need to get it really hot again. And they're looking at that yellow, that glowing yellow and red color. And that's telling them what temperature it is. And it's just because they're used to looking at it. They know what to look for. So they're communicating again. Sarah just asked Alex to blow into the pipe again.
You can see the sparkles starting to show up.
So I'm going in as close as I can without melting my phone here. You can actually start to see some of the sparkles of that gold aventurine. I don't know if you can see it, but you can. It starts to pop out as we do that. So Sarah's making sure she's got the color in there where she wants it to be. She's looking for the shape. She's also making sure that that it's moving how she wants it, and she's getting it the right shape and size she wants to go on to the next step here. And now she's just trying to cool it down a little bit before you'll notice how when she first brought it over here, after she had reheated it, it was glowing really bright yellow and orange. And now you'll see that color is dying down some, that glowing color, and that just lets her know that the glass is cooling down. So Sarah is coming back over, and she's going to add a little more glass now onto the end of this. You'll notice she's still keeping that pipe turning all the time. People ask, how do they get the glass out of there? If you've ever tried to pull honey out of a jar and you see how it kind of dribbles off the end and you have to keep turning it to keep it on there, that's what she's doing. And we're going to bring it back around, back over to the bench. And she's using another one of those wood blocks to shape the glass again. And you'll see it's back to that glowing yellow-orange color. So now she's reheating it again in that reheating chamber. If you've popped on later, this reheating chamber is held at 2,300 degrees. This piece of equipment we can turn on and off as we need to, but those furnaces in the center where she pulled the glass out of are held at 2050 degrees all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We regularly add more glass to the furnace. We buy it in a powder form. It comes in large brown bags, and we can actually just toss the whole bag into the furnace. It's so hot the paper burns right off, and then the glass is left behind. And we do that. We fill the furnace over the course of about 24 to 48 hours, and then it's held at a temperature and moved back and forth between temperatures to get it exactly the consistency we want to be able to work at. So Sarah is using a tool right now that looks very similar to the tweezers. These are called jacks. They look like giant tweezers, kind of. They're much larger, and that's how she's going to learn. She's going to use to really get the shape she wants for the next part of this process. So she's creating kind of constriction lines in the glass. You're going to see it kind of skinnier in some parts, wider in others. She's creating the bottom of the bowl. So right now what you're seeing here is going to be the outside of the floppy bowl we're making. And you saw the kind of knob at the end, and that's actually where it's going to sit. So it's creating a base for the bowl to sit on. A lot of people see bowls like this, you might put them in the middle of a table and put fruit in it, things like that. It's things you could actually use to eat out of if you really wanted to, but it might get messy because this one's wavy around the outside. But it could be used for that. Most things we make in the hot shop here can actually be used. So if we make glasses or mugs, things like that, you could eat and drink out of those. So Sarah's making another line here, and you should be able to see how it kind of looks like a globe. In the middle of it, there's kind of a knob at the end, and then you can see where it's still attached to the pipe at the other end. But where she's making that really tight line on your left is where we're actually going to break that off of the pipe eventually. That's where I said part of the hardest part when they're learning how to be glass blowers is making the glass break exactly when and where you want it to. You can really start to see some of the shiny now. I don't know how well you can see it through the camera, but as it's going, some of that gold aventurine color is really coming through now. And we're seeing a lot of really pretty sparkle in this glass. So Alex has another wood tool here called a paddle. And she's going to use this to make the end of this really nice and flat so that it can sit as a bowl when this is all done. So you'll notice it is made of wood, but it looks very black because this has been used a lot. So yeah, the wood does burn as we're doing this. And you can only use a paddle for so long. Eventually enough of it burns away that you can't use it anymore and we have to get a new one in. So Alex is going to hold that very firmly on the end of it. And that is going to make a really flat base. So you're going to see how that kind of round knob Sarah was making is going to flatten. So if you heard that loud squeak through the camera, that was on the jacks. And she's actually just running that across a beeswax, which just acts as a lubricant. So Alex is pushing pretty hard from the outside of this to really make that flat. And you'll see kind of some flames popping up out of that. And that is that wood burning. So Alex is going to take another one of our punchy rods and she is going to get some more glass. And what she's going to do is get some of this again. And just like Sarah was doing, you're going to notice Alex is going to keep her hands moving all the time, keeping that pipe rolling. So she's just getting some more glass out of the furnace and she's going to bring it over. And what she's going to do is add it to the end of what Sarah's been making so that now we've been working on the outside of the bowl. Now we're going to work on the inside of the bowl. And we're going to do that by actually taking it off one of the pipe Sarah's holding, and it's going to go onto the pipe that Alex is holding. And we do that by pushing the glass together. It fuses together and allows you to work on the other side of it. So this is how she's going to open that bowl up. Inside this that Sarah's holding, it's hollow. She blew an air bubble in there. So it's got a big amount of air in there. And when she opens it up is where we actually make the bowl part.
The black you're seeing too is red. That's what's giving it.
Okay, so the black, as you were looking at that globe, you could kind of see black. You could see the gold color really well. But where you were seeing that's black, that's actually going to be that cherry red color. But we're not going to see that red until it's all the way through the annealing process. So right now where it looks black is actually going to be a bright cherry red. And then the gold you're seeing is that gold aventurine color we put on it. And it's really beautiful and sparkly. So right now they're joining that together. So they had the really hot glass. She's adding it right onto the base she did. And at the end where Sarah made that constriction line, she's actually adding water to that line. You can hear kind of a little hissing sound, and that's actually making tiny fractures in the glass. And just a little bit of vibration through the pipe, they've now moved that glass from one pipe onto the other one. And now it's firmly on the other. And they're just going to reheat it again so that they can start working on the outside. You're going to see where it was hollow in the middle in just a moment. Again, that was one of those people, you know, they say, does stuff break? Yes, but only when and where they want it to break. So I'm going to get as close as I can here, and you're going to see how it looks like there's a hole in the glass. That's where it was attached to the blowpipe, and that's how they were getting air into it. But now Sarah is going to shape that. Oh, okay. So we're actually going to follow Alex for a minute, and she's dipping it down in the water, the part we're not done, and we'll actually get a chance to maybe see that color it's going to be at the end. So Alex said when it cools down a little bit, we'll see if we can see that red color that looked clear, but is actually going to be red. So we do often have people ask us about what the glass is made of. A lot of times people think it's just sand. It's a little more scientifically complicated now. We've got it to do exactly what we want it to do, to be able to do all the things we're used to seeing. but we use a type of glass called System 96 glass, meaning our glass has a coefficient of expansion of 0.96, which is why we have to anneal it, the annealing process I was mentioning. It shrinks by 0.96% when we're working with it. So because it does that shrinking, that's what keeps it from cracking as it's cooling down. We know exactly how much it's going to shrink so that we know what temperature to hold it at so that it doesn't crack when it's all done. So while they're working with it, the molecules are constantly moving. Glass acts more like plasma when it's hot and forms its rigid structure when it's all the way cooled. So a lot of times you're learning in school, is something a gas? Is it a liquid? Is it a solid? Well, glass can kind of do all of those things. A lot of people think it looks a lot like lava when it's coming out, and that's pretty close. So the idea of glass blowing, the way we think of it now, this process, is over 2,000 years old. It's been perfected over time. And yeah, it did start with sand. Now we use some other ingredients to make the sand. We use soda, we use lime, and we use hot ash, which makes up the majority of the glass as we use it now. If you were to bury, when they're opening, a lot of times we see things about archaeological digs and things like that. And when they're finding different vessels that were made thousands of years ago, if you were to bury a ceramic, a glass, a wood, and a fiber vessel underground for 2,000 years, after that 2,000 years, only the glass would remain intact. So Alex and Sarah, again, through communication, are working on different parts of this bowl. So Sarah is still making the shape of what the bowl is going to be, and Alex is working on a lip for the bowl. So kind of a lip of the bowl, kind of making the upper rim of the bowl, and Alex is working on that. And in just a moment, they're going to add it to the bowl here. Alex and Sarah work together a lot here in our hot shop. So there's a lot of things that if people weren't used to working together, most glass blowers should be able to assist another glass blower. They all learn the same names for things. They learn a lot of the same techniques. But if people have a chance to work together a lot, like Miss Alex and Miss Sarah do, they have a lot that they just know to do. They've done pieces like this a lot of times together. And so there's a lot that they just know to do without having to tell each other. But you'll still hear them talking back and forth a lot. So right now, Alex, we're adding that lip to the bowl. And she's going to do that. Sarah is continuing to move that bowl. So the bowl is moving, not the rod that Alex has. It's kind of stretching the glass around it. And now you can kind of see it there on the end. We'll get a better shot of that in a minute. And I think she used more of that gold color for the lip. So you can see where she added that lip. It's actually glowing a different temperature than some of the other glass. So you can see it really well. And Sarah's just snipping off some of the edges and then just making it really smooth. So we're going to come up here a little closer. And she's still keeping that pipe moving all the time. It's still rolling because even if she stopped, that whole piece could just kind of dribble off the end of that pipe even now. Even though it's got all that shape and all that work. And that would make them really sad. That's one of those things where I mentioned before, they only want it to break and melt where they want it to and when they want it to. So we got a question in the chat. Someone was, oh, sorry, I'll answer that in a minute. Sarah is using a tool called a Sophietta that she's using to put in the end of that bowl. And it's another one where it's hollow through and it allows her to blow air in exactly how she wants it to. It's kind of got a cone shape at the end of it. Someone asked in the chat questions, we got a question saying, could we add other shapes to a bowl, like wings onto this bowl? Absolutely. We sure could. There's lots of places where you can see a lot of really incredible glass art just here in Columbus. You can always come here to our gift shop and gallery. We have art from over 25 different artists on display. We also have a part of our permanent collection, some really famous glass artists who have come here over the years to work at Glass Access. Glass Access has been around since 1987 and was founded by graduates from Ohio State in glass that didn't want to move out to either the East Coast or the West Coast to be glassblowers. So they started their own studio here. So they brought in a lot of artists over the years, and you can see some of the incredible artwork we have on display and some of the really interesting things you can do with glass. Also in Columbus, at the Columbus Museum of Art, there's a lot of glass art on display, as also at Franklin Park Conservatory. So you'll see how that opening of that bowl is getting bigger now. So she actually opened the mouth of that bowl a little wider. It was really small at the beginning, and now it's much wider. And she did that just by kind of stretching the glass outward. Because all this time, she's still able to mold and shape this. It's got that, it won't get that hard, rigid structure until it's all the way done with the annealing process. It stays kind of soft. And I know we've run over in time just a little bit, but if you stick with us, you'll see this right as it gets ready to go in, and then we can answer those last couple of questions. And I think the next thing on the Science Festival starts right at 11, so you've still got about 10 minutes, but it isn't going to take us that long to get this finished at this point. So now Sarah is starting to spin this really fast. The whole time she's been spinning it, and now she's spinning it fast. People who have been to COSI and visited, there's lots of different things teaching us about centrifugal force, and that's what they're using here. Now she kind of stops a little bit just to she wants it to actually dribble down. This is that same thing. They don't want it to break or dribble off unless they want it to. So when and where they want it to, that's more of that. So now she's still spinning it because she doesn't want it to do that drooping anymore. Now she wants it to stay on there while she's getting it just the right temperature. You also notice she's going to go back to the reheating chamber, and Alex has opened the doors of this, which means we can fit something larger in there now. When the doors were closed, you can see them open now. She needed it smaller. Now that it's a larger piece, she needs a larger opening to move it in and out. So there's that bowl. I'm holding my phone pretty close, and my hand gets really hot even close to it. But you can see that beautiful gold color there. And now we are almost done with this. Sarah is going to get it. She's going to heat it one more time. And then just like she did before when she was moving it from one pipe to the other, she's going to add a little water onto this, which is going to allow it to crack exactly where she wants it to. And Alex is wearing these really big gloves. These are made of Kevlar, just like firefighters wear in their fire suits. This is made of the same material. And so Alex is going to take this piece of glass now. It's going to break right off with a little bit of vibration. It's still over 1,600 degrees, and they're going to walk it over into one of these giant ovens in the back of our studio. These are called annealing ovens. These are held at about 900 degrees. She's going to put it in there. She's going to close the door, and it's going to sit at that temperature for the next 12 hours or so, and then the next 12 to 15 hours after that, it is going to come down to room temperature, and that's going to complete that annealing process, which is what makes it have that solid structure it has at the end. So really quickly here, I am going to turn my phone camera around, and we're going to ask Miss Alex and Sarah those couple other questions because they can answer those better. Nope, I turned it off. I can do this. Turn it around, front camera. All right, I'm going to hand them my earbud because that's got the microphone so that you can hear them. So Miss Alex and Miss Sarah are done. They are likely to tell you that, yes, they are feeling very warm right now. And that's what a lot of people ask about. So yes, they are warm, but they're also kind of used to this. Kind of. That's why they're all shimmery. So the questions people were asking, Alex and Sarah, what are your favorite things you like to make? Go ahead.
So I make little glass cats. So any kind of sculpted animals, little creatures, that kind of stuff's super fun.
I like to make blown glass vases, or I like to make glass that you can wear, whether it be jewelry or something to put in your hair, things like that.
Awesome. And then the other question, Sarah, is people want to know why the Rupert's drop. Why could you bang it at one end, but it shattered in the other?
Yeah, so when glass cools, it actually shrinks a very small amount. So when glass is super cooled like that, one end that's been a lot of glass cooling really rapidly, it shrinks on itself and it actually gets stronger than steel. Because that glass shrinks so quickly, it doesn't have time to crack or fall apart like glass usually would when we're cooling it really fast. So when we do it that really, really quick, fast cool, it gets super, super strong. We could have hit that all day long. It would have gone all the way through that steel table, all the way through the ground underneath of it, and it wouldn't have broke. But because that tail is really thin and we can break that part, it kind of causes a chain reaction that goes all the way down the glass and explodes all that kind of built up pressure from the glass shrinking.
And if you Google those on YouTube, you can watch Rupert drops being broken in slow motion and actually watch that break happen. And it's really super awesome to see.
Well, that's great. Okay, so that is all we have for you here at Glass Axis. I encourage you, if you want to see more, Miss Alex will be back with us on Friday. She's going to do a torch demo where we do it cut glass on its smaller, kind of in a smaller form where we can work a little more intricately sometimes. But she'll do that on a torch, but it's the same basic idea where you got the glass exactly the temperature you want, get all the colors you want, and then only make it break where and when you want it to. So all those concepts carry through. So we're hoping you're able to join us again. And we look forward to seeing you again. If you have any other questions about what all we do here at Glass Axis, you can find that on our website, www.glassaxis.org. That lists all of our classes. We do have kids' summer camps available. And then we also have those classes for adults and those series classes for people who want to learn more. So thank you so much again for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing everyone back here on Friday.